Today's video is being sponsored by the great people over at Squarespace. Quickly build a website for your business and spend less time building your site and more time creating your images. Okay, so this lens has been out for a little over a year now, but this is the first time that I've been able to get my hands on it, so I had to do a video. What's up, everyone? How's it going? Today's video is all about this crazy lens, the Laowa 24mm probe lens from Venus Optics. This lens is super weird looking, I know. I'm renting this one right now, but this will probably be the next lens that I buy. But that's me, and I'll explain why I would buy it in just a little bit. However, is this lens for you? It's definitely a specialty lens, so what kind of photographer is this lens made for? Before I give you my answer though and dive into testing it out, I wanted to give you guys some specs in case you haven't seen it before. This lens has some crazy stuff going on with it. The Laowa 24mm probe lens from Venus Optics is a strange, almost rifle-looking macro lens. It gives you a larger-than-life 2:1 magnification, giving you a pretty weird perspective on the world. And on top of that, probably one of this lens's best features is its minimal focal distance at 0.8 inches, pretty much right at the end of the lens here. To put that into perspective, the Canon 100mm lens, probably one of the best lenses for food photography, has a minimal focal distance of just under a foot. So with this lens, you can pretty much touch your subject. But unlike the 100mm lens from Canon, with this 24mm, you get a much wider shot without the compression or depth of field that's so indicative of a telephoto lens. I still can't get over the length of this lens, but I guess that's probably its #1 feature because you can get really close to your subject and you and the camera are still a ways away. And actually the probe design is probably the coolest feature as well because it allows you to get in and under or just above the subject if you're using it as a video lens. This lens comes in two versions, this standard version and a cinema mod version, which basically just has follow focus rings and standard apertures. But other than that, it has two rings on the outside, one for manual focus and the other is an aperture ring, which goes from f14 all the way up to f40. Going back to this lens's aperture range, f14 is its largest aperture, so you're gonna need to add some extra light to your scene. It's totally understandable, however, as macro lenses generally have a small plane of focus naturally, so being able to get up close with a much wider field of view and a greater depth of field is kind of what makes this lens special. Other than having this really weird tubular design that allows you to get into spaces that you wouldn't normally be able to get into, Venus Optics kind of took it up another notch by making this section from here all the way to the USB port waterproof. Now, I wasn't able to have this lens for very long. I actually have to return it in a couple of hours, but I was able to do some test shots to kind of try it out before I buy it. I went to the store and bought some things that I thought would make some cool clips, like these tomatoes on the vine here. After testing the lens out, I found that shots where you surround the lens on all sides look best, at least in my opinion. Sneaking the lens in between the tomatoes and under that vine is probably my favorite shot of all that I took. It's incredible how close you can get and the point of view that you get with the 2:1 magnification. I thought it would be really cool to see cheese being grated from underneath. So I attached a cheese grater to a super clamp and a C-stand, then wedged it against the table for a little more stability. It ended up pretty dark under there, so I snuck a white card in to give the metal some reflections. Having enough light is the biggest issue with this lens. I think if I was gonna buy this lens, I would also at the same time have to invest in some more powerful lights. For the most part, for most of the shots, my camera was about ISO 2500, which even though the Fujifilm can handle it and it doesn't look too bad, it's a little bit high for me. Now, I think one of the first ideas that came to mind was sliding this lens under someone cutting with a knife. This shot is cool, but I think I'll have to work on this idea a little bit more. Timing up the knife with the slider at the same time as trying not to introduce any shake became pretty difficult. This lens shakes pretty bad. The same or worse than my Canon 100mm lens. So, if you're gonna be using this lens, make sure that you have everything stable. The camera is stable, the set is stable, and nothing's bouncing around because it shakes pretty easily. I had a few other shots in mind for this little salad story, but I didn't have time to get to them all. I was trying to style a little valley for the lens to pass just above here in this salad, but in the end, I think it probably could have been lit differently. And with these slow-mo shots, I was having to increase my ISO even more to counterbalance that change in shutter speed. Proving further that with slow-mo shots like this, I definitely need to invest in some more powerful lights for this lens. Because the tip of this lens is waterproof, I just had to come up with an idea that would test that out. So I decided to do a little milk and cookies for Santa type shot. I rigged my slider off a C-stand. It was the first time that I had my slider going vertical. And props to Edelkrone because the slider had no problem lifting the camera and this lens. Although this lens is probably one of the lightest lenses that I've ever used. So with this shot, my idea was that the camera would dip into the milk, then pass through to some kind of Christmas land with candy and sugar. So I followed it up with another shot where the lens traveled through my different props as I sifted some sugar over the scene. And I think it turned out pretty cool. It was really fun to snake candy canes underneath this lens. It's incredible what this lens allows you to create. I do have a major complaint with this lens. I don't know if it outweighs the positives or if it would dissuade me from buying it, but I thought it was big enough to mention. I don't know if it's just this lens or a flaw with all of them, but all of my clips that I shot with this lens have a severe yellow cast. It was bad enough for me to do kind of a double take and just double check that my camera's white balance wasn't off. I'm pretty sure it's just the type of glass they used when they created the lens. I've seen it before in other lenses, maybe not this bad, but as a food photographer, I'm a pretty big stickler when it comes to my lenses and the color of my subjects. I tried to fix it in camera when I was shooting by creating a custom white balance, but that was proving to be too difficult, so I just opted to fix all of the clips at once in Premiere Pro using a preset. Is this a deal breaker? Well, it might be for some. I'm still kind of leaning towards all of the positives with this lens as a storytelling tool, but it's really sad because everything else about this lens is just so perfect. I've been a paying customer of Squarespace for about 7 years now, and it's instrumental to how I make money. My website is the #1 way that I get work. It's the one thing that all photographers should have is a beautifully designed portfolio website. The clients have to see your work. No matter where they first encounter your images, they're always going to go back to your portfolio site. This is my portfolio site, skylarbertphotography.com, that I built using Squarespace. It was only a few years ago that I completely changed everything about my portfolio. From the design to the images that I was showing to the layout, everything was different. And because I was on Squarespace, that was super easy to do. Now it's sleek and slimmed down. I also focused on SEO, and Squarespace has great SEO tools baked right in. It's simple and easy to optimize your site so you can start ranking for those keywords that will help get you found. With their drag and drop templates, building my portfolio, laying out my images, my galleries, updating my portfolio on the fly, Squarespace makes that simple. If you're a creator, you're building up that audience, you have some products that you want to sell, Squarespace has a great storefront and e-commerce platform that will help get you that done. My website is how I make money. It's how my clients find me. It's the front door to my business. And if you head over to squarespace.com right now, you can get yourself a free trial, set up your website, upload all those beautiful photos and videos that I know you've been taking, and when you're ready to launch, check out that link down in the description below. You can save yourself 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. All right, so who is this lens for? Well, that's tough because I want to buy it, so I want to say everyone. But the fact is, even if I buy this lens, I might not suggest it for everyone else. It's a specialty lens. It's really great if you're thinking about getting into commercial food and beverage and product photography. Maybe keep it to a couple of shots per video and fear that it would get overused, but if you're thinking about jumping into that commercial field, then this is definitely a lens that you might want to consider owning. But if you're new to photography, I don't know if it's at the top of the list of essential gear. At $1,350, this lens isn't cheap, especially for being such a specialty lens. But with the crazy perspective and point of view it gives you, I can imagine all of the shots that I want to get with it, which is why I want to buy it. With the popularity and success of this lens, I'm sure it's not the last one that Venus Optics is going to make, so I can't wait to see what they come up with in the future. But that's it for this video. I'll drop a link for this lens down in the description below. Have a happy holidays, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.